Good morning and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm going to do a little bit of a get ready with me as I answer some questions that I posted on my Instagram about my experience with mental health and any questions that anybody had related to mental health. So I already done a get ready with me, but this one's a little bit different because I have more products, and that was almost a year ago in July or August, I'm not too sure, don't quote me. So let's go ahead and get started. Foundation is my Beauty Blender Bounce Foundation. I really like this one because it looks really natural and it's not too much, and I am in the shade 250, which is a little bit too dark for me. So what I like to do is go in with my concealer from Cover FX, and it's like a little bit lighter, and I like to mix it together. So this is what the Cover FX concealer looks like. It's the Power Play, and I had this in the shade G Light 1. So what I like to do is put it in the back of my hand, a little squirt, and take my concealer. The doe foot is kind of like that, so a lot of product comes out, and put like at least 3 dots to mix in with the darker foundation. I'll mix it on my hand and then go ahead and dot it all over my face. Sometimes it's not enough, sometimes I want more than others. I want more foundation than others, depending on where I'm going. So for today, I'm just doing this to get ready on the video. So I'll just do a little bit less, and if I need more to cover, I'll go back in. As of recently, I've been liking a more lighter, trying to take a more natural look, and then I go in with my real techniques. I think this is the face brush, and I've had this for a long time. Go ahead and blend that out. So as I'm blending this out, I'm going to answer the first question I got. It was, how do you deal with anxiety? And I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm perfect, because I still struggle really bad with my mental health. So if you don't know, I was diagnosed with OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder, GAD, which is generalized anxiety disorder, MDD, which is major depressive disorder, and I also have signs of panic disorder, which is when your anxiety gets so severe you have a panic attack. I'm on kind of my way to learn how to effectively deal with my anxiety, because a lot of my anxiety comes from my OCD, because I get all these obsessions in my head, or also I get anxiety about going out and something bad happening, like not so much catastrophic, but just something that I know I'll get mad at, or it's kind of like a little bit, I'm gonna put a little bit more, it's a little stupid once you say stuff out loud, and like you think that it's like, why do I stress so much about it? But to be honest, like, the mind is really powerful. So said, I could stop going off on a tangent, but when I use my healthy mechanisms to deal with anxiety, I usually like to distract myself from those thoughts. So I'll go in and watch a YouTube video that I know, like, that's funny, because sometimes when my anxiety is at all-time high, when I know that I feel like I'm on the surface of a panic attack, I have no patience to sit there and watch a YouTube video. I get super antsy and I can't sit there and finish it. So that's one way. Sometimes I'll try to take a nap to avoid it. Another, I like to hang out with my boyfriend. As if you guys don't know, I have a boyfriend and he helps me a lot. He's one of my biggest distractions. He makes me laugh, and I love the time that we spend together. I know I shouldn't be dependent on somebody else to help me with my anxiety, but he's honestly such a big help, like such a big help. What else? Sometimes I do usually like to take deep breaths. Like just a big sigh really helps me. When I get anxiety, I try to work on stuff, kind of do homework, especially at work, and then I'll be really busy, so I won't think about it. So I'm on my way to finding better coping mechanisms, or I like to go get my nails done, you know, something to look forward to. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is use my Cover FX concealer.
Go ahead and highlight the high points of my face. If it's like I'm not going out anywhere, I just usually like to do it under the eyes. I'm going out, I'll do the forehead, the nose, cupid's bow, and my chin. But since it's just for the video, I'll just dot it on like this. And to be honest, I really love highlight, so I'll go in a lot with the highlight. And then I usually like to use my Morphe sponge. This one's dirty, so I'm going to just use my brush to blend this out. And it's like a couple shades lighter, so it can add some contrast to the face. I love how this looks. It's so pretty. And this concealer is so good. Like, I already have bags, so I can't expect any concealer that I have to go into the creases of my bags. You know, sometimes you can't have unrealistic expectations because that just leads to anxiety and frustration. For example, me.
So, yeah. So my next question, I only got a couple. So my next question was how to determine if it's a legitimate reason to be upset or you have just anxiety. So I don't know if it's just me, but I'm really in tune with my senses. What the fuck does that mean? But I feel as if when I know I'm being anxious and then when I'm really upset, because I could call myself out when I have my anxiety, because like I know what specifically triggers my anxiety. So if that makes sense, I know specifically what triggers my anxiety. So if I'm in one of those situations that I know for sure it's anxiety, and then if I'm upset, then I know that I have a genuine reason to be upset. I need an example, something that could happen with my boyfriend per se. Say I'm anxious, we go out and something bad happens. Then I know I'm just anticipating that anxiety. I have a fear of the unknown, which is basically what anxiety is. And then that's when I'm upset, then he legitimately did something for me to be upset at. Like, oh, if I know he like was flirting with a girl, then that's something to be upset about. But my anxiety is, oh, what if that could happen? So anxiety is a lot of the what ifs, and it's not concrete evidence. So I think you would be more upset when it's concrete, and anxiety is more the formulating the thoughts in your head, the what ifs. So that's my answer. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and set that concealer in place. And of course I use the Laura Mercier translucent powder. I'm a cheap ass, and I got the travel size before I was rudely interrupted. This is just so satisfying having this much powder on your face. I don't know why. So the next question is not really a question. It is, what are the top 3 mental health issues that I observed? As if you guys don't know, I am currently in my psychiatric clinical rotation. I'm on a geropsych unit, which means I'm in with patients that are geriatric, so typically age 65 and above. They're so cute, I can't. So typically 65 or above are the patients that I usually see. And the top 3 mental health issues that I've seen have to be depression, and it's really common in the geriatric population because, I mean, you're at the point in your life where you're kind of old, and then it's like one of my classmates perfectly put it. She said they're basically babies again. I mean, no offense, but like, you know, they're kind of become a little bit more dependent on others for their daily tasks. Like, you know, some people can't drive, so they need to get, you know, transportation, like, you know, for example, senior dial a ride. They have chronic pain, chronic illnesses, so that comes as another risk factor for depression. And then also depression is really strongly linked with genetics. So if it's in your family lineage, then you're more likely to become depressed. So one is depression. The second one has to be dementia with psychosis. So that means that they're a little bit they have dementia, so they're forgetting things, obviously. And then with psychosis, it means that they become a little bit psychotic, which is they're having hallucinations, they're seeing things, they're delusional, they're believing things that are not really there. And then the third has to be, I think, bipolar. So bipolar is not necessarily switching from moods, how you're happy and they're sad at once. Okay, before I keep rambling on, I'm gonna take this Jeffree Star liquid lipstick in Top Shelf. I got this in the Nudes Volume 2, and I like to use this to contour. Don't touch it. Mania. I got interrupted again by my alarm. So it's mania and depression, and mania or the depressive episodes can last from days to weeks to months. Mania is usually about people that are really like in a super good mood. They talk really fast, they could be irritable, they can't sit down, very jitterish, restless, and that could last for days or weeks at a time, which could be really dangerous because, you know, people don't eat, they don't have the patience to sit down, so it could be very detrimental to their health. And then they also get depressive episodes, which is basically like depression, obviously. They have low energy, they can't sleep, or they sleep too much, the weight loss, weight gain, they lack pleasure in stuff that they usually have pleasure in. So yeah, I see bipolar a lot. I've seen some personality disorders too. I've seen narcissism, but I love it. Like, they're so freaking, like, I know I shouldn't be talking about geriatrics, like, they're so freaking cute, but oh my god, I freaking love it. I love it. I'm gonna go ahead and do my eyebrows off camera and come back. So I do have experience working with behavioral health. My eyebrows are on. I worked with children with autism and different developmental disorders, so maybe that's why I like it so much, because I kind of have like a little bit of history in psych, so to say. So I'm gonna take my Hoola bronzer and my Morphe M527 brush and go ahead and bronze up my face. So I guess that's pretty much it for the questions that I got, because, you know, I'm not Insta famous. We'll talk about my mental health, I guess. So I noticed that I had something a little bit wrong with me. I mean, it's not something wrong with me, but I had OCD symptoms when I was, I think, around like 7 or 8. I got a really bad staph infection, and I kind of developed like a contamination OCD, which means that, like, I was really scared of germs, so I would wash my hands excessively until they were raw and chapped and bleeding. And then I still kind of do this till this day. I'll check if the doors are locked, and if I'm not like 100% sure that they're locked, I literally can't go to sleep. I have to go and physically touch it. And then also so those actions are known as compulsions, and I do those to decrease my anxiety. And then also I have obsessions, so I'll think intrusive thoughts, and we'll save that for another video because I still suffer from that today. And then my anxiety, I mean, I don't really have social anxiety. I get, like, obviously anxiety around, like, you know, new situations. I mean, that's kind of like normal, I guess. It's kind of like a defense mechanism. But I get really bad anxiety going to places that, you know, I think something bad's gonna happen, or if I'm gonna run into somebody. Okay, before we get into depression, I'm gonna go ahead and use my Morphe times James Charles palette, Sisters, and go in with this shade. I threw away the sleeve because it was kind of annoying. Yeah. So before we go into my depression, I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about a little bit of my panic disorder. So I get panic when I go to places that I kind of feel like I don't want to go, or I feel that something bad's gonna happen.
But I mean, I can't always just, like, you know, avoid places because I don't want to go there. Like, that just, you know, feeds into my anxiety and my OCD just as much, you know, like, making me think that avoiding places is okay, and I just totally end up isolating myself, so.
And then my panic disorder, I noticed that I get symptoms where my anxiety is really bad. I'll get like chest pain. Not like, oh my god, I'm having a heart attack, because some people actually feel as though they are having a heart attack. But when I take a deep breath in, it hurts. That's how I know my anxiety is high. Or when I get hard to breathe, when it gets hard to breathe, I feel like my airway closes up. I have to take deeper breaths because, like, I'm trying to blow off the anxiety. I'm like, you know. And then also I start crying out of nowhere. If you notice this with people with mental illness issues, I mean, personally, what I think, people with mental health issues are not always the people that you expect them to have. I'm not saying that, oh my gosh, I'm like a perfect type of person or like whatever, but I'm not saying that about anything at all. But just people with mental illness are really good at hiding it, because, you know, you don't want to be a burden on anybody. Well, at least that's how I feel. And that's trickles down back into the stigma about mental health and how people don't want to open up because, you know, they don't want to be a burden, or people won't believe them, which is so bad, because we should talk about it and become more aware, because mental illness is a real thing. It's a real thing. So my OCD and my anxiety, I think, ultimately caused my depression, and also it's multifactorial. So also, like, different stuff can also trigger it. I'm going in with the darker brown just to add some dimension to the crease. Yeah, so I just started to notice that I had depression symptoms when I noticed I started getting really tired, like super tired all the time. I would wake up and I would be tired. I would want to go back to bed. I want to take a nap, and I barely woke up. When I would try to do my homework or trying to read something, my mind would trail off. My concentration was totally low. And mind you, before I got into nursing school, obviously I had to work my ass off with the prereqs, and I was on top of my shit, like on top of my shit. Like constantly reading, constantly doing notes, studying, and I was so into it. Like nothing could bring me down. My concentration was there, everything. And noticing that kind of was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, you know, like, how can I be such a good student and then all of a sudden this happened? So it was a little devastating there. Also, I noticed that, blend this out, I started to gain an immense amount of weight, which is also a sign of depression. It could be weight loss or weight gain. Fortunately, in mine, I started gaining a lot of weight. I noticed my chest started to grow, and like that's totally not normal for me, because I've never had a big, for the lack of better words, chest area. So I knew something was wrong, and then I went to the doctors when, I think, to replace my birth control, and I seen the scale and I was like, what the fuck? this is not normal. And then I noticed I started to isolate myself more. I started to find comfort in coming into my room, closing the door, and laying down, sleeping. And then also I found myself crying a lot. I was crying a lot. And I wasn't really in a good place. I mean, academic wise, yeah, 100%, you know. But like, as in a whole, I don't think I was really in, you know, a good place back then. Is this really what depression feels like? Because, like, you know, you're kind of skeptical because you're just like, oh, people have words problems, blah, blah, let me put it off. I don't think I'm really depressed. I think I'm just sad. Maybe I'm just emotional, you know? But then I started to really think, like, what if I really am depressed, you know? So, obviously, I have Kaiser insurance, so if you go online and if you have Kaiser, you could look up behavioral health, something like that, and then they have like a depression scale. So you'll take it online and I'll ask you a couple questions and you would rate it. And when I did that, I was severely depressed, and yeah, so I was like, oh fuck, I am depressed. Off until like I was like, you know what, this is too much for me to handle. I can't do this, not anymore, because the way I'm obviously coping with it now, I'm not doing a good job with it. So I finally decided to reach out. So like I said, I'm through Kaiser, and then I called, and then they do like an initial assessment on you, like they ask you questions, and then they say, okay, I'm gonna have a therapist call you later, and then they do, and then you set up your first appointment, and then the first appointment's like an intake, and yada yada yada. The only thing that sucks with like mental health is that you have to go through a lot of barriers before you even like start any kind of treatment. At least that's what I thought, like. And then having to like pick up the phone and call and then talk to somebody, and it's just like, when you're already anxiety ridden, that shit's hard. So I think that's ultimately why I want to be a psych nurse, because I feel one of these days, like, I want to make a difference in the psych world, no matter how cliche that sounds. But I want to make, you know, behavioral health more attainable. It's pretty badass to be in psych because it takes a lot of patience. You have to really be communicable, and you need to understand how to, you know, de-escalate crisis. And I think, you know, that's awesome. And when I'm in, like, when I'm at clinical, like, I freaking love talking to the patients. Like, I love getting to know their diagnosis. And I really want to be a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. So that is what I think I want to do as far as nursing goes. But this is the look. She looking cute or whatever. I just got my hair dyed by my boyfriend's grandma, and it looks so good. Let's see. Oh, she cute. She cute. Anyways, other than that, if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe, and I will be back in another month. Just kidding.